Everybody, it's Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong. I know you may remember, I shouldn't say I know, I think some of you remember that not too long ago I had a fabric fun pack that I sold. I only had a few of those, and I always keep one for myself, and in the comments it was really funny to me. It was cute. I said, I don't know if I'm going to make several journals or just go wild and make one big eclectic journal. And some of the comments were go wild, just go wild. So that's what I did. I put everything into one journal and I wanted to show you that. So the cover, and I love using corrugated cardboard to make covers. If you just looked at this from the outside, you might not know that it's cardboard, but when you open it up, we definitely have the cardboard showing in the front and in the back. And one of the things I love about corrugated cardboard, when you use it so that the ridges are this way, it will sort of roll, and it's a lot easier to work with under the sewing machine and that kind of thing. You can see that I have bits of all different types of the fabric in the cover. This kind of grungy looking with the butterfly. I also took a piece of the corrugated cardboard, which I'm trying to get it to glue down a tiny bit, but I wanted you to see the other side. I just laid strips of fabric over it and then sewed around everywhere with the sewing machine so that it's not going to tear up. And I used a zigzag stitch in the center to make sort of the body of the butterfly, and then this pack had a really shiny piece of black ribbon in it. So I used a couple of pieces of that to make the antennae. I love the way that turned out, by the way, and this is just part of an old table scarf. Now I think I did pull a couple of pieces from the next fun pack, or maybe just one. It might have been just this, maybe this lace. But you'll see I have some fun packs that I'm going to be sharing after this video. So getting inside, oh, and I will show you that I decided to make a tie for it, and all of this fabric came from the pack. I loved adding the fabric ruffles, using all kinds of trim, letting pieces just sort of, you know, hang where they will. And then when you get inside, I just wanted to use up all the fabric. I thought I'm just gonna go wild, like I said, and put everything in here. I had some paper laying on the desk that I really liked, and I wanted to go ahead and use that. So I sewed a little piece of watercolor paper to that, and of course there's more fabric at the top. And this is not nearly as good as Anne's, but there's a channel called Head Trip Creations. And Anne is an amazing artist. I did this really tiny thing this morning just listening to her channel, but I'm surprised she doesn't have 1 million subscribers. She's so talented. She goes through step by step and shows how she's making the faces that she makes. So I was kind of listening to her channel while I was putting this together this morning. Some of you might recognize, like this page, I had created a journal that was on metal rings. I listed it in my Ko-fi shop for maybe a couple of weeks, and it didn't sell. It was just maybe 6 pages or something like that. It wasn't very many pages. And I had already decided if it didn't sell, I wanted to take it out of the shop, take the rings out of it, and sew the pages into a journal. I love putting papers on rings, and I like that kind of journal, but not all the time. And I'm really trying to incorporate a lot of my loose floating around materials into journals that I already have. I guess I'm just thinking ahead, like to my kids, and having everything consolidated, and you know, just not so much floating around that somebody gets overwhelmed and says, well, you know, we just don't need all this. There are a few little quotes in here. This says keep a daily journal. This says be yourself. And this is an example too. So the journal that didn't sell, these pages were based on that little acronym I came up with, GREAT, for Great Journal Pages. I like to use it when I feel like I have a creative block. Just get something on the paper. Just do something. Don't sit around waiting for inspiration. Just, and it's the ground floor, repeating pattern, ephemera, art, and texture. And I've always said you can go back and add to those pages, which you can. These pages have all been added to since I took that journal apart. This is another piece of the paper I wanted to use, so I made a fabric flower with some of the fabric, and that's just a little piece of something I had floating around on the desk. I think I bought that in some ephemera. I think it said her blue coat. So, and you can see I used the quilting strips to sew my pages into the journal, and they were all sewn to this piece of purple fabric. It's much easier to sew the signatures onto one piece of fabric and then glue that fabric down inside your cover. And then I did stitch along here and in the back to make sure that it stayed in place. So here is another little drawing I did while listening to Anne at Head Trip Creations. And this is a piece of the fabric from the kit. I just really gathered it at one end and sewed it into place and gathered it up at the other end and then in the center. And I love the way we have this puffy, it's almost like a balance on a window. When declaring your rights, don't forget your responsibilities. This is a piece of paper that I had glued a napkin onto. So that's just under this belly band that's also created from 2 different layers of the fabric in the kit. This star fabric was in the kit or fun pack too. So I just sewed a large piece around a piece of watercolor paper because I like the sturdiness of it. And I like that we have this up here at the top. And again, you know, you can go back and keep adding to journals like this, like that dirty water. It sort of settles in those, you know, in those little holes in the paper. I don't know. I just love that. And I love the way this book turned out. So I'm glad everybody said go wild and challenged me to do that. There are more fabric pieces in here and another strip of the quilting fabric used to sew this one signature in. Here's another little quote. Never take action when you're angry. And it's fun sometimes to just go around something and highlight it a little bit. I'm not afraid to just, you know, come back and play. So anyway, I love this journal. Here's just a folded up piece of distressed paper. This ribbon was in the pack, so I wrapped it around and just stitched across the top and wrote love yourself and be yourself. And there's a little flower that Carolyn sent to me. Carolyn comments here sometimes. And another fabric ruffle from the pack. And then this page has a lot going on. That was a page from the journal that I took apart. You can see the fabric where it was sewn into the cover. And so this was already on here, but I added this quote, show respect for everyone who works for a living, regardless of how trivial their job. And then this page is made from some really beautiful wallpaper, some of which is in the next pack that I'm going to be listing. This was in the fabric pack, this beautiful trim, and there's another little scrap of that fabric we used from the front. And I made a tiny, tiny pocket and put a guinea feather in there. That's from my mom and Poppy's farm where they live. I glued this butterfly down, and this is just sort of a collage of that really shiny fabric. Well, the fabric's white, but it's got all these beautiful glistening, glimmery, shiny spots. I love that. And then this page is just a pocket. I folded a piece of wallpaper and sewed around here, and that's a picture from a planner, of course Frida Kahlo, and there's some of the fabric on the edge. Where the sewing marks were, I took some alcohol ink and just dropped along the edge so that we didn't see that white paper where the needle went through the paper. And that fits in perfectly. I love that. I cut another square of the fabric out and just sewed around and around this piece of paper torn from a book, Become the Most Positive and Enthusiastic Person You Know. And then we have a pocket here that's glued in, and another piece of paper that I definitely wanted to keep and use. I love this paper. And this is the piece of fabric It was like a table scarf or a really large placemat or doily, and I thought it would be fun to use it to stencil with, which I did, and we'll see some of that later in the book. Again, I love that you can see the fabric where I sewed these signatures in, and this was a piece of really pretty ribbon in the fabric pack. So I gathered that. It was very long and then just sewed it down here, and I think that turned out so pretty. And there's just some sparkly tissue paper that I wanted to use up. And then here, so this is a ribbon that I just stitched at the very top because at the time I did this, the journal was so bulky on both sides. I couldn't really go back with the sewing machine and sew down all the way. There is glue under here, but I added stitches at the top and at the bottom as far in as I could just to help this fabric stay adhered to the corrugated cardboard. And then this ribbon, I just sewed down while I was doing that, and it can also almost be like a bookmark. You know, you could pick it up and move it to different spots if you wanted to, but I kind of like it just hanging here. I love the way it sort of twirls like that. It's a really pretty piece of ribbon. There is an old page from one of my art journals that I had pulled a lot of the papers out of. Don't believe all you hear, spend all you have, or sleep all you want. I have a hard time with that third one because sometimes I'm so tired, but honestly, I don't get to sleep all I want. And I'm trying to do better at not letting depression or the blues make me want to just curl up somewhere and forget about things. I think that's really easy to do, and I'm trying to push myself out of that mood when I feel like that. So here is a piece of that paper that I used that doily type fabric to stain with this glimmer mist, and I love the way it left that pattern. That's a piece of watercolor paper, so I will probably come back and do a face on that. This page was made from more of the corrugated cardboard, and there's just some gesso on top. There's a pocket from the fabric. There was one little piece of ribbon left from the mystery kit junk journal that I made that said live simply, so I put this on here just to remember that project. And I love that saying too. There's more of the fabric with the butterfly, some of the quilting fabric. I love how you can put everything together, and you know, as long as the whole thing is eclectic and just layered and filled, things don't seem to clash too bad. Now, this is a fun page. This is another page from an older art journal, and I glued down a couple of tickets and another quote, which is, this quote is centered around what I mentioned earlier, not just sitting around waiting for inspiration, but getting started on a project. And I have always found that if I just make myself get started, I end up finding inspiration from the project itself as it unfolds. And then these are strips of fabric. Again, I wanted to use everything. So this page was made by taking a piece of watercolor paper, sewing some fabric on it, and of course I put these in so they would be side by side, and I love that they match. They sort of just flow. And I sewed these strips across the top, and you can see we have so many rogue threads everywhere. I did cut out a lot of them because there were so many. I went through, I don't know how many bobbins of black thread doing this project. So I cut some out and left a lot as well. And I love that we can see the stitches over here. One of the things I thought about doing, and let me see if I can find it. It may be in a different spot. And actually, maybe this one would be best. So I really thought about coming back with some pretty colors and filling in. You know how you see art like that? When we were in school, we used to do scribbles all over a page, and then we would color all the different spaces that were left with different colors. And you can end up with just some gorgeous art that way, with all sorts of creatures and shapes and faces that you didn't really see until you started painting everything, which is so much fun. So here, I guess while we're sitting here, I'll just go ahead and do this. But I thoroughly loved creating this journal. I don't know if I'm going to be able to part with it. It crossed my mind, and I've worked on it for a couple of days. I don't know what kind of price I would put on it. And I don't know if I'm going to sell it. But anyway, I do really love it. I love how it turned out. And I want to start on another one. I have so many things I want to do. There's just no end to the ideas, but we know there's a limit to the time we all have every day. Let's see, let's try this this orange here, because that kind of picks up the fabric across the street here. Oh, I like that. What else do we have? Maybe another color of blue over here. Oh, and we probably need a little bit of green for this over here. So let's do that. Let's maybe put some green right in here. So please let me know what you think about this journal. Sometimes it's fun to just go through what you have and just go ahead and say, I'm using all of this. I want it out of the way and I want to be done with this. So I used up all the fabric, all of my fabric. There were just a couple of little scraps that maybe had edges on them that I knew I was not going to use. And I went ahead and discarded those. But let me tell you, there was not much. I just determined when I started this to use everything. I wanted to live up to the challenge. Let's see, what other colors do we have? Let's get this darker green down here. Well, maybe I'll stop there because I know we need to keep moving. Anyway, that's an idea for a page in a junk journal. And flipping onward, not going to worry too much about those colors traveling to the next page. There's another part of that sheet of paper that I stained with the, let me grab that. This is one thing I kept and I will keep because it does make a pretty page. You just lay it down on the paper and spray. And of course there's another sheet of paper that I wanted to keep and use somehow. So I made a belly band, and instead of sliding this in this way where it's going to catch that fabric that binds the page in, I slide it this way. And then I love this page so much. This was from the original art journal that I took apart. You can see the fabric where I sewed the signature in, and each signature is just 2 pages. Then I gathered up some of this. There was quite a bit of that ribbon. Sewed that down, and this photograph is very old. You can tell a lady standing just sort of on a hillside, wearing her hat, her very modest dress, and it says, "See you on the other side." And there's some raised areas there from texture paste and probably just one of my shape makers that I have. And then this was a page from the art journal. I did a block out sort of, you know, where you just pick certain words you want to keep visible. A prayer, and it says, "Emotions, evidence everywhere, imaginative instincts of humble, everyday, demonstrative shrine." So kind of a prayerful thing. And there's more of the cardboard. I didn't add anything else to this. That was a page from the original art journal. This was a page from the original art journal, and you can see the raised areas from the texture paste. I did make a flower out of some of the fabric, and here's one of those. I made several, and that's what that is there. So I had a little sheet from one of those books where you take phone messages. And this is some words torn out of an old art journal, "Don't give up." And this makes me think about all the times, and there are more than there should be, that I've seen somebody post on Facebook where they've lost a friend to you know, a really tragic situation, and they'll say, "I wish you had called me." And liked having this don't give up on the phone call thing. So it's good to reach out to people or to be available to people who might need to reach out. And I love the way this turned out. So we have this bright, shiny gold and black trim. There is another strip of the fabric that was part of this. And this says, remember that not getting what you want is sometimes a stroke of good luck. I kind of want to just put a big scribbly circle around that. And maybe I should just do that. I don't know. Some of my favorite pens have walked away. Yes, I like that. So I need to buy some more pens. And here's just a piece of fabric that I scrunched up and sewed to the edge here. And I did one here on the opposite side. So this is the last page. That was from the art journal also. And I love that we have these added layers. I could still go back and do more. Under here you see the cardboard. And I love that this box, it says created or crafted in Texas, which is where I was born. And then here is just another little drawing I did while listening to Anne's channel, and I scrunched up just another piece of fabric there and gave her sort of a little headdress or hat. And there's a couple of layers of the fabric to make a pocket there. Just some fabric up here. I added as much as I could everywhere that I could to use up what was in the fabric pack because I said I'm just going to use it all and just make a wild, crazy, eclectic journal. And that's it. So we've got fabric on the pages, we've got fabric accents, we've got the fabric and cardboard butterfly on the front, and I just love the way that turned out. We could still add, maybe I'll make a tassel for the outside with some of the scraps that are left. Oh, I love it. So I did make a tassel, and it's just strips of the fabric that are wrapped around, oh, look at all the strings. It kind of just ties in with the journal though. Let me just clip this one big bundle. It fits in with the journal. I love it so much. So I used wire to put all of these little pieces of fabric together and ran it through this large bead and then a smaller bead and just made a loop at the top so that I could make a little fabric strip, and that's just there at the top with a safety pin. So that would come off easily. Ooh, it's so pretty. I just love it so much. Even all the strings and stuff. And I may add more to this. Again, I'm trying to consolidate a lot of things in the workshop and just loose things that I have floating around as far as getting journals complete and full and marked complete. So I feel like this is a really good project. So I appreciate everyone who is here and everyone who's recently subscribed. Thank you for being here, and I'll be back soon. Okay, bye for now.